talent is a myth, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to talk about why on this video. I'm going to bring in a Zoom call. If you want to ask some questions, feel free to chime in. We're live on YouTube, baby.
I don't need nothing else. Every time I'm with you, yo, it's something else. It's a fact, and it's nothing else. Got your hand out, you don't even need the help. Ooh, I don't need nothing else. Every time I'm with you, yo, it's something else. It's a fact, and it's nothing else. Got your hand out, you don't even need the help. Ooh, that's right. I don't need nothing else.
What's going on? It's Ruslan with KingsDreamENT.com. This channel exists to encourage, empower, inspire you to live out God's dream for your life. And I wanted to talk about something with you guys today that I think will hopefully empower you, or will hopefully encourage you. And that's this notion, inspired by a lot of the books that I've been reading, that talent, what we call talent is a myth. It's not something that is as cracked up as it's intended to be. And it doesn't, your lack of talent isn't something that needs to be used to make you feel inferior to people who are more talented than you, and how you can take a calculated risk on what is it that you want to grow in and be efficient in. So we are live on YouTube right now, and we have a amazing Patreon community who is going to be coming into this session shortly and chopping it up with us here. I wanted to give everybody a chance, to chime in if they want to chime in. If they don't, it's all good. But before I get into that, if you're watching this live, and we're live, we are across all platforms, including Facebook and Periscope, Twitch, all that kind of stuff. So if you're watching this live, I'm keeping my eye on the chats. Let me know where you're watching this from. Give this video a thumbs up. Those always help. And what you can do is, if you want to join the conversation, the link is in the description. You can just go to patreon.com/kingsdream. You can sign up. It's the latest post in there. And you could call in and we could have this conversation if you have questions, all that kind of stuff. But in the meantime, just let me know where you're watching this from. So here is the big premise, right? We grow up believing that certain people are more talented than other people. They just have this it factor, this genetic thing that makes them superior to you in some particular lane, some particular fashion, some particular thing that they have that you don't have. And the thing that we don't take into account most of the times is we don't take into account their experience and the experience of deliberate work on a particular craft or skill set, which then looks like a magical talent that they were just born with. What do I mean? This is coming from the book Outliers, which, by the way, we got Outlier merch on sale. Let me know how y'all like these bleached handmade hoodies. We might throw these up shortly. But specifically, we're talking about, if you look at professional athletes, if you look at soccer players, I believe hockey players, they've done multiple studies, and they found out that the majority of professional athletes are born in the months of January, February, and March. Why is that? Is there something mystical with the way the sun gravitates around the earth, or excuse me, the way the earth gravitates around the sun in those early months that gives these phenoms an advantage because there's something in the air, there's something in the water, there's a certain specific climate, something's happening, and so the majority of these professional athletes are born in January, February, March. Why is that? Well, they traced it back to all the way when these kids were youngsters and they were starting to play sports. How sports are divvied up very early on is by year. So a kid that is born in January, if he's playing against kids that are born in December, that kid that was born in January is going to be almost a year more fully developed than the kid that was born in December, or a kid that was born in February versus a kid that was, right? You guys see what I'm saying? They're just physically more developed. They're more coordinated. They're maybe bigger. They may be taller. And it's not that the kid in January has something that innately makes him more talented. I'm talking about 4 or 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds. This is because I'm coaching my son's basketball team. I talked about it on my last video with Brandman Sean. You guys go check that out. But it is that these kids at an early age show more promise, and therefore the coaches And the parents see them competing against other kids seemingly their age, when really they're just competing against kids that are 6 months to a year younger than them. And at the age of 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, a year or 6 months is a huge difference in the development, the physicality of a child. Speaking as someone who coaches 5-year-olds. So what they traced it back to is that the reason why most professional athletes are born in January, February, and March is not because there's something in the water, is not because the way the earth rotates around the sun in those months, has nothing to do with that. It's simply because at an earlier age, they got more affirmation and they were taught to believe that they were more naturally gifted, naturally, quote unquote, talented in the particular sport that they were playing in. Now, do genetics play a factor? Well, of course genetics play a factor. If you're 6'6" and you're born in January, of course, you know what I mean? Like, of course that's gonna make a difference. But it could all be traced back to that early onset development of the kids. First of all, getting more affirmation, which then leads them to have more confidence, and the belief, which I think is a myth, of talent they then carry. And if they continue to put in the deliberate effort and consistency, they will be advanced and get better. So everybody always points back to Michael Jordan. Well, Michael Jordan's great. Of course, he has talent. Well, you don't factor in that Michael Jordan's dad was also very into sports, which means that Michael Jordan probably grew up with a lot of sports and a lot of access to sports, and a father that was very athletic. Learned behavior, right? Or Kobe Bryant. People are like, well, Kobe Bryant's great. Well, yeah, Kobe Bryant's dad was a professional basketball player, right? So there's something about growing up with a father figure who is very active. For example, my son Levi, who's 5, has been watching me consistently work out, do pull-ups, that sort of thing, and doing them with me, or attempting to do them with me since he was 3. He's been doing push-ups since he was 3, right? He's 5. He could do 2 push-ups in about 12 or 13. He could do 2 full pull-ups in about 12 to 13 push-ups. Do you think if he continues to do these things through his teenage years, he won't be efficient and amazing and calisthenically trained as an athlete? Of course he will, right? And a lot of this is me watching him and watching the things that he could pick up and grasp and the way his mind is developing. And so I say all that to say, in music, the biggest lie and the biggest myth they're trying to push on you, and I can name you example after example, is that artist has no name, he is talented, and then voila, he's a famous superstar overnight. And it's because he's more talented and he made it. Look how fast he made it. He made it overnight. That he is amazing and he's talented, and you're not, and you're inferior to that artist because he's just more talented. And this is the narrative, right? So how does this look? This looks like artists being signed to major labels all along while remaining independent, right? This is a mind trick that the industry plays on you guys. Another example, Baby Keem. Baby Keem, artist came out. They tried to make it look like this organic build, like he was just bubbling. You'll hear more and more about Baby Keem. Then it came out through a leak tweet that Baby Keem is actually Kendrick Lamar's little cousin, who is also managed by Dave Free, who just left Top Dog Entertainment to manage Baby Keem. So not only is he related to one of the best rappers, he's also managed by the same manager, who's also has an advantage because he's probably been grown around music and watching his older cousin become successful and have that inspiration and that tangibility. It's about mentality. It's not about talent. It's about access to information and inspiration. It's not about genetics. It's about you having the confidence in yourself that despite whatever people tell you, you can become what it is you're trying to become. And so this idea of talent is a very delicate one, because we think that sports or music is a meritocracy. The most talented rapper should be the most successful. That's also not how it works. In sports, you will know that it also has to do with your coaches, with your teammates, with the city you were living in, the access to a specific basketball program, the access to strength training, right? These different access. In the same way in music, what city are you in? Who's around you? Do you have somebody to help you with videos? Are you willing to learn? Can you talent stack? Can you learn one thing and go over to a different discipline? All these things play a factor, but the big idea is anybody can become great at anything if they simply put enough time in, right? Now, that doesn't mean they have the predisposed genetics of a LeBron James or a Kobe Bryant. They're tall, they got broad shoulders. That's genetics, but it means you can become great at something maybe not NBA level great, but you can still become great enough that maybe if you played Michael Jordan in the game of pickup basketball, maybe you can get a bucket or two on him. And there's actually a video of Michael Jordan losing a pickup game of basketball to some like random CEO that was in a basketball camp of his. Like there's a video, you could look that up, right? So this should inspire us. This should encourage us. Talent is a myth. It's made up, and it's really used and made up to manipulate us into feeling inferior over other people. And it's this idea that some people were they just have it. When the reality is, it's all dependent on how many deliberate hours are you willing to put in. The rule of 10,000 hours. They've studied people who are efficient violin players that perform at an elite level, and they discovered that most of them have put in at least 10,000 hours of deliberate, focused practice versus people who are teach violin at a high school level or a college level. They've put in 4,000 hours, and kind of amateur violin players that aren't very good at all have put in about 1,500 hours. So you have to calculate the time. If you're 35 and you're starting to rap, can you put in 10,000 hours in 5 years to become very, very efficient on it, on top of learning the music, on top of learning the business, on top of learning the marketing? Can you do that so by the time you're 40, you make it as a rapper? Or is there a time limit on that? Depends who you ask, right? There's a lot more rappers getting on in their late 30s and 40s nowadays than there used to be, right? Or if you want to be a professional basketball player, is that something you could pick up at 30? Probably not, right? But is that something you could pick up at 5 or 10? Yeah, maybe, But now you got to factor in the coaches and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, I'm going to bring in some people from the Zoom call. If you guys want to chime in on this question, feel free to throw your hand up. I'm going to get this queued up so I can bring you guys in. I would love to hear from you guys. I think this myth is extremely dangerous. I think it's toxic. And I think it's honestly used to suppress a lot of people into believing that they're inferior. And I don't like that. So I want to empower, I want to use my platform to empower people and encourage you guys that it's a myth, man. It's not real. It's made up. And there are definitely genetic factors that play into it. But by and large, it's really just experience and deliberate, focused practice. So I'm going to bring in my man, Bats. What up, bro?
What's good, bro? How you doing?
Hold on real quick. I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing great, man. So what I really wanted to add to this is there's always going to be somebody better looking than you, a better rapper, better dressed, more fit. But it's just really breaks down to, like you said, mentality. So it's what made that person that started off with a poor household become a millionaire compared to that person that was born into already rich household. So
yeah.
It was mentality. Somebody worked harder. So, for instance, me becoming the couple months that I joined your Patreon, a lot's changed because my circles changed, my mindset's changed, right? And so it's basically just whatever you put your mind to, if you want to accomplish it, you will find a way to do it. So that's all I really wanted to say.
Yeah, and I think to your point, Bats, you said your mindset's changed. What's also changed is your access to information's changed. Your access to mentorship has changed. Your access to having someone that's gone a little further than you has changed. So you've really opened yourself up to both education and inspiration, and you've had people who are successful say, bro, you can be successful too. So now there's confidence being consistently infused in you, just like
True.
When you told me the story of your mom, who's a nutritionist, started feeding you and helping you train and making changes in your diet, right? You then had that confidence infused in you by an authority figure that said, you can do this, you can get more fit, you can get a six-pack, you can do all these things. It's the same idea that you've experienced with food. You could extend it to music or building your TikTok, which you built your TikTok to over 270,000 followers, right? When sometimes we just need somebody to be like, you can do it. You can do it. I believe in you, right? And so, yeah, man, I think that's been really cool to see that in you. And would you say that's an accurate representation? Like the belief that you can do it helped you be able to do it because it came from places that you found authoritative.
Yeah, especially I don't know. I felt like I looked at you bigger, but then seeing the video with Trey Little, that was man, he was kind of where I was at, you know. And then he grinded for something and they got him to the place where he is now, and now he's profiting from that hard work. And he's not he's a great rapper, but he's, you know what I mean, he's not oh, he's the best rapper out here.
Right.
Now he's at a higher place than these people that are way better. You get what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's just about the hard work.
That's good, man. That's good. Thank you, brother. I'm gonna bring in my brother JJL here in a second.
Was good.
What up, brother? What do you think?
So I actually really like that you mentioned the 10,000 hour rule. But to add on top of that, if you were to tell someone that was just starting out in whatever it is, whether it's music, sports, whatever it may be, I believe that there are 3 components in the 10,000 hour rule, which is you got to work hard, you got to work consistently, and you got to work smart.
Yep.
But maybe someone doesn't necessarily know what it means to work smart. And in terms of music, what would you tell someone working smart is?
Ooh, that's a great question. Well, we're talking about when you said work hard, work smart, and what was the third one?
Consistently.
And consistently.
But maybe some people don't really know what working smart is. Like they know, you got to put your time in, you got to work hard every hour that you spend into this, but maybe they don't necessarily know what the word working smart is because they're just starting out in this specific area. Yeah.
Well, let's just summarize all that into the word deliberate, right? You have to put in 10,000 deliberate hours. So deliberate isn't just like beating yourself into the ground, trying to tap pianos, trying to figure out what the keys are. Deliberate is, I'm going to follow this course along and learn what the C scale is, right? So it's deliberate. It's smart and it's working hard because you're going to develop calluses on your hands. You got to develop the muscle memory, right? So I love that. And you have to be consistent because if my wife spends 30 minutes to an hour playing piano a day and in 5 years, she's a way better piano player than me, right? And so the smart part, I would say, and this is just my opinion, and obviously it kind of, I guess it benefits me a bit, but I would say the smart part, honestly, is in the mentorship and in the relationships. If you can get access to the right people, most of my career jumps has been me having access to people that have gone further than I have, me being affiliated with people that are bigger than I am, and that or literally direct collaboration, like collaborating with people who are bigger than I am, right? And I would say the relational side is the equivalent of having amazing coaches in basketball or in sports, right? If you have amazing coaches who know somebody at that D1 school and because they had a player drafted last year, they could pick up the phone, they can get a tape over, instantly that gets you further along than you're just some kid in some small town that no one's ever heard of, but you're a freak. Yes, now you have the internet and all that kind of stuff, but the relational stuff is probably the most important. And so why does that serve me best? Well, it serves me best because I'm building a whole community of creatives that are collaborating, connecting, meeting in person, doing songs together, right? So on and so forth. I'm always collaborating with you guys. We're always, right? You see what I'm saying? And so I think that to me is probably the smart part, because then I could say, like me and Nick D were on the phone trying to figure out more efficient ways to shoot music videos. And Nick D shot 25 music videos last year. He is a cinematographer by trade. And we're like, man, if we can just get a template, if we can get a checklist of how to shoot our music videos, right, then we will be more efficient. And then guess what? By and large, we will eventually pass that information on to other artists, whether it's in a Patreon context, whether it's me giving it to Foggy Raw, or me charging for a course because I feel like the information is that valuable, right? You see what I'm saying? And so I think that's the smart part, is like, I could only get so far weight training by myself. But the moment I hired a trainer, I got to another level that I couldn't get to. I had hit a plateau. And so sometimes you got to spend money to get money. Sometimes you got to give to get. And sometimes it's as simple as saying, hey, I'm going to hire a coach. I'm going to hire a trainer. I'm going to join a community. I'm going to do something that is a risk that may not pay off. Or like JJ, in your case specifically, you guys made it a point to come down here and hang out with me in San Diego. You guys were staying in like LA or something, right? And you made it a point to come down, hang out with me. And that required some sacrifice, that required some degree of faith, right? That I was going to be where I said I was going to be at, right? But you made that, and then you made a further impression on top of just being in a Patreon. You actually drove a couple hours out of your way to play basketball with me for a couple hours, which then helped solidify our friendship, right? So you have a bit more access to me than somebody that's never in the Zoom calls, somebody that's never reaching out on DM, right? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I love that, honestly. And I think that the biggest thing that people can take away out of everything that you said is whether it's paid or not, you just got to surround yourself with greatness. You got to be, I don't know what the word is, modest enough to really understand, this is where I'm at. And if I want to be at this place, whether it's someone that's only 2 steps ahead of me or 1,000 steps ahead of me, I got to be willing to learn from them. And I got to be willing to understand what made them get to that point.
Yeah, that's good, man. That's good. Thank you, brother. All right, I'm going to bring in my brother Lewis here in a second. Wait, who's that?
Oh.
Yo. Yeah, I'm gonna bring in Lewis here in a second. I can bring you back in a sec. JJ, just give me a second. Let me pin Lewis and then somebody else. So shout out to Josh Honeycutt. He said, I agree it is secondary to working hard, consistent, and smart, but to say it is a myth or false, not true, belittles how God creates us towards certain realms, spheres of work, art, recreation. Yeah, okay. So yes and no, Josh. Yes, in that this is, this really gets into like predestination versus free will and all that kind of stuff, right? I'm just making the assertion that a God will sovereignly put you into environments to help you discover what it is maybe you should be doing. But then that goes to the big, super deep question on like, do all of us have a vocation over our lives? Do all of us have a calling, right? The spiritual gifts test, all these different things. And so I agree God is sovereign, and I agree he sets us up, but I also think it's actually much more natural and pragmatic and practical. And I'm only speaking to talent as a myth when talent is used as a way to oppress you into believing that you're inferior to somebody. And I think that does happen a lot, especially in entertainment, when the majority of the time it's really just experience, hours, work, consistency, relationship, network, access, less about this person is more naturally talented, right? So